Hello everyone, and welcome to the 23rd edition of our Cardano Developer Office Hours. Thank you for joining today. I'm Darlisa, your host for this session. So whatever you are, a Cardano developer, working financial reporting, or just curious about building with verifiable data, you're delighted to have you here. If you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, be sure to check the link on the chat and don't miss the next upcoming events. So just before we get started, I have a quick reminder. So the Cardano Learning Hackathon that we have kicked in on the Builders Fest, it's still going on, and this is going to be the last week. So we still have the chance to share your knowledge, help onboard new developers, and also have a chance to win a time bond. So submission closes on the July 18th, and then more details are in the chat. And now let's dive into today's main event. So we are very excited to have Thomas Kammerlocher and Marco Russo, who will give a deep dive into Reeve. So what exactly we aim to cover today? So it's what's Reeve, the purpose, and also the problem it solves. Under the hood, explore the architecture and also the core process of the solution. Run it yourself, so how to deploy, configure, and basically customize Reeve for your business. What's next? So what's coming in the roadmap, and also how you could possibly contribute to that. And then in the end, you're going to have this live Q&A. So bring your question for Thomas and Marco. So without further ado, Thomas and Marco, the stage is yours.
Yes. Thank you very much. So as you mentioned, so today we will focus more on the developer side of Reeve, and we want to give some insights about what the backend is doing. So since the target audience for us are developers and the tech-savvy people, we're not showing lots of presentation material. So that's why we decided to go more for the open source code or for the public documentation. And also, we will also have a live demo where I'm quite happy about it because Marco will take it. And but in general, if someone needs more information about what Reeve is, then I can just point you to our Reeve landing page, where you can go to via reeve.technology. Then you will end up here. From here, you will get all of the information you need from a user perspective. So, for example, what Reeve is doing from a user perspective, what kind of features we have, and what Reeve is about. And also at the bottom, we have some question answered. But if you have any question additionally, then feel free to contact us. So we are always happy to hear some feedback, to hear your thoughts, and also everything else. So you will find the channel, and we will listen. So via X, via email, or whatever, we will find a way to communicate. But besides that, so what we will do today, Darlisa already said it, so I will quickly repeat it. So a short intro. So I will start with what Reeve is about to bring everyone on the same page. Then we will look into the architecture, how the components are interacting and what they are doing. And then I will hand over to the exciting part. So finger crossed to the demo that the live demo is going well today. And last but not least, as Darlisa said, we will look into what's coming next. But let's start with quickly introducing what Reeve is about. So bear with me. So I'm not an accountant, I'm a software developer, and I try to explain it as simple as possible, which will reduce some details of the actual process. But I still hope that it helps some to grasp what we're doing here. So the idea of Reeve is to enhance trust and compliance of entities. So how are we doing this? We are trying with Reeve to increase the financial transparency by recording the financial data on the blockchain, and thus we are providing a verifiable and auditable trail of transactions. But what does it mean with simple words? Basically, this means we are taking the transactions from an ERP system. So most of the companies and organizations are tracking their financial transactions through an ERP system. For example, something like SAP. They are tracking their transactions like how they are paying salaries, how they are paying invoices, and also how they are receiving money. So this is all stored within the ERP system. What Reeve is doing is we are taking these transactions and importing them into Reeve with an adapter so that it's as easy as possible for the users. Then we are converting them a little bit so that we are having these transactions in our Reeve format, and we are applying some GDPR rules. So because we want to protect the privacies of the employees, of the organizations, and also from the partners of these organizations. That's why we are applying GDPR rules. And from there, from Reeve, the organizations can then publish the transactions on chain so that it's immutable, written what the organization who's using Reeve, what they spent, what they got, what they are doing. Based on these transactions, they can also generate reports. And these reports could be, for example, balance sheets or income statements. And the critical part from there is that from there on, everyone who is interested to see what the company is doing can look on the on-chain data and see in this human readable format what the company did, what they spent. So this is the transparency Reeve is giving. But also it enables auditors to take these these on-chain transactions, compare it with the data which is in the ERP, compare it, and then see if something differs. Then they're seeing that something's wrong. So this process is called reconciliation, and this is a new level of transparency. So the Cardano Foundation did it exactly. So if you go from the landing page, you can go to our public pages. There you see a nice front end about the transactions and what we published. So for example, we published for 2024 and 23 our income statement and balance sheets. And you can here, for example, see what's inside the income statement. So feel free to check it out. And additionally, we also published the transactions from 2024, which you can browse from here as well. And so it looks basically like this. What we have here is the transaction numbers. You see how much was spent and also the event description. And from here, you can also go directly to your favorite Explorer via the Explorer landing page and see how the transaction looks on chain. But that's about it, what Reeve is doing, basically. So now let's jump into the fun part, so the more fun part, so that we are talking more about the architecture. So at first, I intended to explain everything on this chart, but then I thought, hey, why not use the public documentation what we already have? So from the landing page, you can also go to our public docs, and there you have everything explained, what I just said about the core components, about the overview of Reeve, but also about the architecture, which I want to talk about now. So this is a simplified architecture diagram showing what kind of components we have in Reeve. So when I'm starting from the top, we're using a Keycloak just a state-of-the-art authentication service so that users can log in with two-factor authentication, but we're using the service as is so that we have the authentication. So the most, from my point of view, one of the most important components within the Reeve is the accounting core. It's more like the heart of Reeve because it's dealing all of the business processes. It's handling all of the domain knowledge about transaction reports and metrics. And it also consumes the data from the ERP and is also dealing all of the instructions when you're starting to publish transaction. So most of the time when you're interacting via our REST interface, which Marco will show, then you will mostly interact with the accounting core because this is where the process really runs. So for example, approving transactions, publishing transactions, triggering extractions from the ERP and so on. So as I said, another component perhaps a little bit boring in comparison to the accounting core, but the organization model is for storing our master data, which is quite crucial as well, because we need some kind of data within Reeve to map, for example, cost centers to codes, or map accounts to event codes and so on. So we're storing all of the master data within this module. This module also have a REST interface that you can do the CRUD operations on these master data. But in this architecture diagram, these lines are synchronous calls. So these components are just communicating via function calls within this application, but these dotted lines are asynchronous calls, because this is quite important for the software architecture, because from our point of view, we wanted to have the architecture as flexible and as modular as possible. Because I can explain it on the ERP adapter. So what the accounting core is doing when you're saying you want to extract something, it is sending a Spring event, because the whole application is written in Java. It is sending a Spring event to the ERP adapter, and the ERP adapter picks up the event, and then it's doing the job. In our case, as the Cardano Foundation, we are using NetSuite from Oracle. So we wrote in a NetSuite ERP adapter. So accounting core is sending the events, the NetSuite adapter is picking it up, and it's doing its job. So it's querying all of the transactions from the ERP and sending an event back. The good thing about this architecture, as I said, is it's easy extendable. So as of now, we already wrote 2 ERP adapters. The first one is NetSuite, because we are using it, as I mentioned, and the second one, in financial things, it's mostly the most obvious one that we wrote an CSV adapter, but it makes it quite easy for new organization to start using Reeve, because it's easier to use the CSV than write a whole adapter. So that's why we wrote as a second adapter, the CSV adapter. But what I want to point out here is that we just have the API, so we just need to implement how the ERP, how the Spring events are consumed. And that's why the complete logic about where to get the transactions is encapsulated. So for example, if a new user comes and says, hey, I want to integrate SAP as an ERP system, then we can just build this single module, and then SAP is compatible to Reeve. This makes it easy for extending the whole application. The same approach we're following for the blockchain publisher. So it's also an asynchronous communication, and the blockchain publisher. So we implemented it now for the Cardano layer 1, and that's where we also published it. But in the future, we could also implement other publishers into a layer 2, for example, to reduce transaction fees or so on. So it's possible to extend it here. The other components are more for indexing the chain and checking if transactions are really on chain, or if we need to handle some rollbacks. So that's why they're more easier. So that's why it's more. The other 2 components are more for indexing. So this was just an easy example. This was just a rough architecture. So just quickly how we are running it, because I want to show that this architecture is flexible and adjustable for users. So if a different user wants to run it differently, then it is possible, because we are running it within AWS, within the EKS service. So all of the components are Docker containers. So in our case, because we wanted to have the maximum of security, that's why we split it, the EKS, in 2 network zones. The first one is the public-facing zone, where we have the accounting core, the key cloak, and the organization modules, so all components which needs to be accessible from the internet. And then we made a network separation, so that these components from the top can only communicate with the top components on the bottom through a Kafka. This makes it more secure and more robust for us, so that there's just a limited communication channel. Because these components on the bottom here is our blockchain publisher, because we want to protect our mnemonic from attackers. And the other component is the ERP adapter, because quite obviously we want to protect the access to our production instance of our ERP. That's why we splitted it like this. So if there are any questions, then I can answer them in the chat. So I quickly want to go through the repository structure, because we open source 2 repositories, because both are our backend. The first one is the CF Reeve platform. So this is the complete logic which we have. It contains the accounting core, it contains the blockchain publisher, also the NetSuite ERP adapter. In the next release, in the release 1.0, there will be then the CSV adapter as well, but everything ends up here. The idea is that this repository is a library and can be used by other applications and extended if needed. So the second repository here is then our CF Reeve application. So this is the example how we are running Reeve as the Cardano Foundation. So this repository mostly contains configurations or contains, for example, also the Kafka publisher. So how we are putting everything on Kafka. So if someone wants to use another broker or anything else, then it's possible to just map the events. And also in this repository are Docker Compose scripts to simply spin it up. But yeah, I think I talked a lot, but that's why I will hand over to Marco for the more interesting part for the live demo.
This is the Swagger when you can find the documentation from all the API on the project itself. I'm going to explain this after, but it's regarding the report, transaction that we have, some batches to accumulate all of them, and dashboard. Well, a lot of endpoints that you can just implement by yourself and use it on your site. Besides that, we have a UI site, a front-end designed for us. So let's make a quick turn regarding this. It's blank, it's in local. So at the moment, we have anything prepared or anything here on our application. The first step is to get information from our IRP. In this case, going to be only mock data. And this is the part that Thomas mentioned before. When we create the organization, our organization that we want to handle it, where we have the detail of the organization, the chart of account, it's basically the accounting accounts where they get the information from. Cost center, the bad codes, and event codes. Everything can be configurable from this side, so you can enable or disable anything that you're going to use on the application itself. Just to take a little. Everything is disabled just for the purpose to the presentation itself. I'm going to import transactions from our ERP. You can select arrange, you can select the type of transaction that you want to import, and if you can know the transaction number, you can also use it. Okay, one is imported, we can see it on the review side. Those transactions are at the moment pending because the bad code was not defined. So as I showed you before, the bad codes are disabled, all of them. I'm going to enable it directly from database. So no need to go one by one. And they're here. Cool. Once we fix the problem in our side, we can reprocess the information because the error could be, well, there is a series of errors that we can get when we validate the transaction itself. So all of them are now ready to approve. You can see the transaction that I have inside. You can reject it. If the person in accounting sees something that is wrong, they can just cancel it or reject it and need to be checked in the future by someone, maybe in the ERP or maybe in our side. At the moment we have everything okay, so we're going to approve everything. And like when you make a bank transfer or anything in your bank, you always need to approve. So we're using the same here. After you approve, you also start to publish the information itself. This is going to take like 1 or 2 minutes. It's going to be published in a DevNet that I have in my local. So here we're going to see when all the transactions start to arrive. And of course, also we can tell here like the transactions at this moment is going to be published or is in process to be published. And at some point, this is going to be full in the blockchains and also full reconciled that is not going to be deleted anymore. For my test, this will take only 1 minute, but normally take a few hours. And meanwhile, that happens. Let's see. Okay, we have something here already. Okay, and this is the information that we can see in the application itself. If I open this one is 9. If I see this information here about the cost center, everything what is related to that transaction, I can see as well that was published in the blockchains. No, only that, all of them. But it's the same information that we have here. And means that it's published. Let me check if actually it's already there. After that, we also need to check if everything was complete. Okay, still dispatching. When all these transactions finish in the blockchain and is fully there, we can create the report or annual report. At the moment, if I try to create an income statement, it's going to fail because it's not going to fail, it's going to be empty because anything is in the blockchain already. That also means if you go to the public part that Thomas showed before, also this one is going to be empty. You cannot find anything. So we need to give them 1 more minute. You see, there is no result at the moment. Let me check the process. How long? Take. Okay, it's almost there. The same for the dashboard. We have no information, so at the moment we cannot show anything. But we can start to prepare the reports. When we try to create the reports, we can select the balance sheet, we can select the period if we want the full year, the first quarter, or month by month. Normally, it would be month by month. No, it's not there already. 1 second. Okay. Okay, I'll write that. Let's go to generate the report again, the balance sheet. And now he will take all the transactions that we already published, and it's going to fulfill according to what we have configured in the chart of account or on internet account, everything that we can configure on settings. Oh, sorry. We can see it in the report. So let's do one of them for the entire year. It's going to fulfill based on the information that we already published. It's going to make the calculation. If we make something different here, it will notice and we say, oh, listen, your balance is not balanced. So you need to check it. And we can save it. And also we can create our income statement that is to be matched to the balance sheet. And the same, if we add something different, he will tell, listen, the profit of the year from the balance sheet is not okay. So you need to maybe you missed something in your IP and you need to re-import it. But the idea is to make it in that way. And when it's finished, you can publish also your reports. In this case, we don't need to double confirm, just one. And the same, we're going to see it in the blockchain, in this case, indefinite, when the application just running. Another thing that we can configure is the dashboard. I'm going to create a new one very quick so we can see it when the report was published. At the moment, it's very straightforward, but in the future, I assume that we can also change how you generate your dashboard to show to the public and everything. Okay, let's go to the public part. Here, this is what everyone can see. If you make a search now, you can see all the items in the transaction that we published, and you will see also you can open Explorer. Of course, this is not going to work right now because it's in my local. We can see it only here. This one is one of the reports. One of the one that we created before. This is the income statement. And you can check it in there. If you go to the dashboard, it's not showing anything. Because it's 2025, sorry. my mistake. Well, here we can see cool stuff. If you check the public one that we have in production, you will see actual information that we have there. And the last thing that we can check here is one to actually validate that everything was correct. We call it the reconciliation. This tool is going to check that the information that is published in the blockchain it's exactly the one that we have in the ERP. This is very useful for an accountant or someone want to check it actually. He will see it. This could take a while because actually need to go to both sides and retrieve information from there. Let me see if already finished. I think so. No, but this could take, yeah, it's done. And says that everything was reconciled, all the transactions. Means the transaction is in the ERP and the transaction is also in the blockchain, and both are the same.
Yeah, okay. I would quickly take over for just the last part so that we have an outlook what we are working on next. So this is just version 1.0. So it's, from our point of view, it's just the beginning. It's as every software is, it's probably not perfect. So it's not probably, it's definitely not perfect. So there's still room for improvement. So if you have any feedbacks about it, then let us know, then we will work on it. But we already have plans to go further. So what we will do next is this was our launch, and then what we are working on next is getting the first POC onboardings onto to use Reeve, so that we have users outside of the Cardano Foundation to get other feedback from other community, from other organizations. And besides that, the next big topic what we're working on is a collaboration with the Viridian team, so to get digital identities tied into Reeve, so that we have next to the ADA handle what we're currently using as an identity, that we have a more stable solution than what we have right now. So that's why this is the next big thing. And besides that, there are also some scalability assessments what we need to do, because it's we want to get it even cheaper as it is right now, so that we try to optimize it even more, fix some bugs what we find, and so this is mostly the thing. So in summary, our plan is to do two POC onboardings, and as a big new feature, the Viridian integration, and then another thing is the new requirements discovery, because new onboardings will always come with new requirements, and this is what we're going to build. So that's it from our point of view from the presentation. If you have any questions, then we are here to answer them. And thank you very much for the attention.
So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the great presentation, Marco and Thomas. And now we are opening the floor for questions. So you have the first one, Jonah.